Congressman Issa, as always, good to talk to you.
Well, thanks for having me back, and thanks for covering the important issue of Fast and Furious.
You have sent a letter to the White House demanding to interview former staffer Kevin O'Reilly. You've seen the emails he's traded with William Newell. What specifically are you trying to find out by interviewing him?
Well, the most important thing here is that the White House is interfering with a legitimate congressional inquiry. Kevin O'Reilly's attorneys have already said he would meet with us. It's only the White House saying no that gets in the way. And understand, former White House officials are interviewed all the time. I sat in some under Chairman Henry Waxman. So this is the real crux of it. Yes, we have some legitimate questions, certainly since there was an ex parte, a very unusual correspondence between these individuals. We have a right to ask what they talked about when they had phone calls and the like. We're not interested in asking anything about communication directly with the president, but we're entitled to any witness, anytime, anywhere. They're not asserting executive privilege. They're just refusing to cooperate.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you point out in the letter, the fact that O'Reilly was talking to Newell is well outside the chain of command. So that raises all kinds of questions, doesn't it?
It does. And, ultimately, we have a very legitimate right from this discovery to ask questions. We're being denied it, not by the individual. As you know, at least one individual has tried to assert their Second Amendment or Fifth Amendment rights. There are reasons people can choose not to answer, but when a witness wants to cooperate and the White House is saying no, that tells you the White House is covering up.
It really does, because as you said, the attorney says it's okay, so really, what do they have to hide? But it's interesting, too, because I remember when you asked Newell about this during the hearing, and one of the emails specifically, he said, you didn't get this from me. But Newell really didn't tell you what the heck they were talking about.
Well, exactly. When somebody says, I'm going to tell you something off the record, you really have to ask the question of, well, when Brian Terry is laying dead in the Tucson street, aren't we entitled to ask why they were having this, quote, you didn't get it from me conversation between a very knowledgeable party in Fast and Furious and a high-ranking national security advisor at the White House?
And I know you've asked for the permission to talk to him from the White House by April 4th, but what makes you think they're going to change their mind this time just because you sent them a letter?
Well, the Constitution should get in the way of this White House, but so far they've played pretty fast and loose with the Constitution, the First and the Second Amendment, and ultimately what we are in a position to do is to go past the White House to deliver a lawful subpoena and deliver it by a U.S. Marshal. We don't want to play tough. We want to play fair. We've said that he can have White House counsel present, but we certainly have a line of questioning that we know is legitimate. And if the White House wants to maintain any semblance of cooperation, now that they've lost the most transparent administration in history standing, they'll at least allow that to go forward. We've also said we do it telephonically. We're not trying to burden the individual or the White House, but the White House has to admit that this is something legitimate. Certainly, Brian Terry's family deserves to know that we've chased down every legitimate lead.
And you said you do it by phone because O'Reilly is in Iraq right now, and I know from the start, well, that was one of the excuses the administration used, that he's out of the country, there's no way you can reach him, but you're not going to buy that.
Of course we don't buy it. I've been in Iraq. I've made phone calls from Iraq. All of our troops do. This is not World War I, and you send letters home and hope they get home by ship. This type of communication is routine. I could actually have a video conference very easily with him, the same as we do with our generals there. So the White House is preventing cooperation by an otherwise cooperating witness, somebody who had a communication that was outside of their official lines and outside of their duty at the White House. The real bottom line is the only thing that would legitimately cause them trepidation is that he spoke to the president or the vice president. The only thing that would do it is exactly what they're saying we don't have a right to. We can live with not knowing the communications to the president. We can't live without knowing what he knew and when he knew it. The same as we asked Eric Holder, the same as we asked all witnesses.
Yeah, aside from the emails, do you have any other evidence that whatever information O'Reilly got from Newell and that they exchanged, that somehow it did get to the president?
Well, as you know, not even including this incident, we have, out of 80,000 pages we know to exist, we have less than 6,000 pages delivered to us. Most of the information we have from outside sources and whistleblowers. Even the LA Times article just yesterday or the day before came out with information that was not provided to us. So that's one of the reasons that this is such an unusual situation in the way of a cover-up. This administration uses every trick in the book to provide nothing to anybody if they can. It's one of the reasons that, candidly, our committee is reaching the end of a rope that hasn't happened in a long time. Other presidents, both Republicans and Democrats, have been far more cooperative.
And I know you've raised concerns about what the Inspector General is or isn't investigating. You wonder, is this part of their investigation, these emails with O'Reilly?
Actually, we're positive that it isn't.
It isn't. Okay.
We've learned that the investigation by the IG is very narrowly an ATF investigation, and that, in fact, the key political appointees, the obvious key political appointees, have never been interviewed by the IG. As you may know, Mr. Cunningham, before he left, we asked the IG to use her unique authority to interview because they don't have the right to take a fifth, and she didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, the administrative officials, they keep claiming that O'Reilly and Newell, hey, they were just good friends catching up. And as you pointed out early on, if they're just catching up and they're good friends, then what the heck does this administration have to hide, and why won't they let them talk to you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So one other question, still moving forward, I'm sure you are, with the contempt charges against the Attorney General.
We are continuing to build the case. We are continuing to try to work with the Attorney General, but we're quite convinced at this point that the only way we'll get cooperations is when we actually schedule a contempt hearing.
And any doubt, this is an election year, and no doubt they're trying to just drag this thing out?
It does appear as though what they want to do is to either make it a political issue and claim that this more than a year that we've been investigating and been thwarted is somehow political because it falls within the political season, or they simply want to get past the election. Certainly, I can sort of sympathize with them. I understand Richard Nixon didn't want the tapes coming out during his presidency either.